To all my perfectionists here on YouTube, Jump Force Season 2 DLC has been absolutely perfect thus far. Shoto Todoroki has been the most well-received character for Jump Force Season 2 DLC to date, and the community absolutely loves this guy. Just go on rank to see how many times you see him on a team. And the only thing left to question for the Jump Force community and all my perfectionists here on YouTube is who are the final 5 Jump Force Season 2 DLC characters. Well, in what is the single best Jump Force video here on YouTube, I, your host, the only and the best undefeated player on the game itself, will be going over the new Jump Force Season 2 Leap DLC characters in a list that covers characters from Yu Yu Hakusho, Bleach, Hunter x Hunter, and JoJo's Bizarre Adventures. But before that, since I already know that you're going to absolutely love this content from the god of fighting games and anime fighting games, hit that subscribe button and click that notification bell to get all the new anime info and discussions, anime games, ranked battles, and news coverage from games like Jump Force, Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, Dragon Ball Fighters, and One's Justice 2 from the YouTube channel where the quality is in the name itself, perfection. And let's get right into it. So today we're actually going to start off with JoJo's Bizarre Adventure and their representative for Jump Force Season 2 DLC. Now this character is very much the personification of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Of course I'm talking about Part 2, Battle Tendencies, main antagonist, Cars, coming to Jump Force Season 2 DLC. Yes, yes, and more. Yes, I know that everyone would enjoy this character and would unanimously accept him into the game, and he has one of the most diverse set of attributes in anime that would easily lend itself to one of the most diverse and entertaining movesets in Jump Force. Let's talk about it. So, one of the first techniques that I can see him wielding is his light blade technique. So I can see it being a melee range technique like Starfinger that would extend combos but do heavy damage in the process, like he just slashes the enemy. But here's the twist. It would also be a cinematic. So the startup would be cinematic like 6-path spar, or let's say Avon slash, but the ending state of the move would be like a combo extension like Starfinger. So you get the best of both worlds and the opponent can't just jump block out of it or run away from it, and they also have the potential of getting comboed afterwards. So it would be a truly perfect technique for the ultimate being. Also, I want to look at another incarnation of the light blade, which would be a long distance throwing version of the light blade. Like he throws out a wind scar or a energy technique in the shape of a blade, much like Ichigo's awaken technique for Cars. So that's what I see with him with light blades. Now the other technique that I can see making up the third move would be his light slip blades, and that, I mean, you know, run-of-the-mill technique, nothing special about that, but I want to just put an extra focus on the melee range and the long distance technique. Now, his ultimate technique that I can see coming into Jump Force would be his Hamon, or his ripple technique. His Hamon is so strong that it could cause volcanoes to erupt. So I could easily see Spike Chunsoft coming up with a animation that would pay tribute to that. Like he uses a Hamon overdrive, and in the cinematic you can just see like an eruption coming from the ground or something as he punches or tears at the opponent. That's what I want to see coming from Cars with his ultimate. Now Awakening would of course be his ultimate god form, his ultimate being form. That's assuming that throughout his entire base character that he's not in his ultimate being form already. But I mean, it doesn't matter, because Cars as a total character is awesome both in god form and outside of god form. So you can really do anything with this character. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, and you'll see that reflected in a future video. Moving on to Yu Yu Hakusho, and this one is going to be really entertaining because we're going to be talking about the character that comes from Team Taguro, Karasu. Now Karasu, I can see being a very unique character that could be a harkening back to other characters in anime arena fighters. More specifically, Deidara. So Karasu in Yu Yu Hakusho in the Dark Tournament arc has the attribute of causing booms anywhere the opponent is. So invisible booms, like invisible booms all around the map. He can zero in on an opponent. So this made me think of Deidara a lot, actually, because if you play the Storm series, that's all this man would do, would throw around explosive clay and it just go boom all over the place. So I can see that going on with Karasu here, and I have several different moves that are actually attributed to the character in the anime. Let's talk about it. So Trace Eyes, boom. And you know I'm having to say boom. We're on YouTube, and if you want to get uncensored content, you might want to check out the Patreon or the channel membership, whichever suits you. But Trace Eyes boom would be a technique that I can see actually following the opponent around the map for a set amount of time. Now I would actually want this technique to track better than Kaiba's Hekai technique or Gaara's Sand Shower technique, and I want it to track longer, and more specifically, I don't want it to be guarded against. That's the problem with the Jump Force. I feel like guarding is way too strong, unless you have an advanced mechanic where you can make it unblockable if you expend more meter. But I just feel like natively it should just be unblockable. That way the opponent would actually have to move in on Karasu to end the booms all over the map. Again, having to censor this for YouTube a little bit. Next move, it would be his underground bear trap boom, or his mad boom technique. And I would see this as being a unique move to Jump Force because we don't have any trap techniques in the game. I don't even think we have any, unless you want to count Yugi's Swords of Revealing Light in his moveset, which I really don't. But I feel like you could lay this trap somewhere on the map, and let's say you could just sit there and bait your opponent to move on to that point on the map, right? And they move over the trap, and boom, they get a huge chunk of damage done to them. Now I want it to be sort of, you know, concealed, maybe with like a light glowing that would pulsate every now and again to be a fair warning to the opponent, but it would just sit there laying in wait, and it would sit there indefinitely unless your opponent does something like an ultimate, you know, of that nature that would cause a cinematic change, but nothing like super attacks or grabs or anything like that. It would have to be an ultimate technique that would, you know, secretly remove the technique off the map. His next move, which I feel like would be just his moveset in general, would be his boom touch, where he could just hit things anywhere on the map. Now, I could see this again working very much like Deidara, because he would just throw his clay and it would just track the opponent. What I want to see happen is that Karasu would just do his little throwing, waving gestures with his arms, and he could hit you with those booms anywhere on the map. Anywhere. Just literally a long range technique, and the only way that you can stop them is if you got close to Karasu and actually wanted a close range fight. Again, I'm thinking of characters that would break up the camping problem on Jump Force, because that is a very, very problematic thing for new players that don't know how to deal with it. So, you know, creating a character that would defeat that technique would kind of phase it out of the meta, so to speak. But have it go long range, and if your opponent got close range, it can still hit them, but maybe not make it as effective with close range. Again, I'm still ironing this out. Let me know what you think in the comment section below about that one. Now, his ultimate technique, again, this feels like full-on inspired by Deidara, but realistically, Karasu was probably the inspiration for Deidara. So his ultimate would be his full body boom, and it would involve him taking off his mask, and he'd take off the mask, and his body would become a huge explosive boom. It would just boom on the opponent. It would be like something like bigger than a explosive wave barrier or a perfect barrier technique, where it would just cover a huge, maybe double the range of Cell's perfect barrier and make it unblockable. Again, block is too much of a prevalent check to all the moves in the game, so having Karasu come in and introduce a check to block is what we want to do here. So you introduce this move that has the area of effect at the size double of perfect barrier, and I feel like that would be a very good check. Now it would do, I don't know, I would say standard damage. I want this to be, it's a move ending technique. So I would want to do standard about 50% damage. That's without optimizing it, you know, without being in awakened state, about 50% damage. That's what I want to see it doing here. So awakening, pretty simple. Him taking off the mask and him being able to use his deleterous boom. And again, we're trading off boo for another word here. So let me know what you think of what I've done with Karasu in the comment section below. And we're going to be moving right on to Hunter X Hunter, or Hunter Hunter, however you want to pronounce it. And we're going to be talking about the father of all MCs, Ging, coming to Jump Force Season 2 DLC as Hunter x Hunter's representative. So Ging has a lot of interesting techniques at his disposal, one of which being the phasing blast. So I can see this working like Double Buster for Xenoverse 2, where you would send a technique out and you can enter an additional command to make it track the opponent. And maybe you can play around with the commands to make it do different opposite motions, because these are two separate blasts tracking the opponent. So maybe you can use something like the analog sticks to make the movements different. It's just what I'm really coming up with in my mind right now, because I want some different, unique techniques that experienced players can make use of and get creative, maybe create some flashy combos. Speaking of which, the most important thing is what state the opponent is left in. Are they stunned, standing up? Is it like a star finger where they left for an additional combo? You know, different states that the opponent is left in are important for different combos and setups, like ultimates or continuing combos for later on. But let me know what you think in the comment section below about that one. Now, his next technique that I can see him use is the remote punch, which would essentially be his aura technique for Jump Force. And what I want to see it do, again, I want to see him be able to evade and use the attack at the same time. So he would be absolutely invincible while this technique is being used. But if you're in his hit range, he can hit you with the technique and essentially set up for an additional combo. Now, as for his ultimate, maybe he could use an advanced variation of the remote punch, maybe a bigger punch, so to speak, because he really hasn't debuted a secret technique yet on a ultimate scale. But I'm pretty sure that the creative minds at Spike Chunsoft can come up with something that we can all enjoy. Now, moving on to the big one that I'm pretty sure everyone has been waiting on, because the excitement for Bleach has been mounting. Bleach's representative for Jump Force Season 2 DLC, Bambieta. Yes, and more yes. Now, Bambieta is a character that gets introduced in the 1,000 Years Blood War arc, and I feel like she would be an intriguing character to see implemented into Jump Force. I mean, she has some very interesting abilities. Much like Karasu, she implements the explode technique, and I would see it being a very unique thing, because she's a sword fighter, so she's very effective at close range, but she also has a long range technique like explode, where she can trigger explosions anywhere on the map. And for her melee combos, I have it envisioned that she would have phantom range in her combos. Let me explain. So she is a sword user, so she would implement a lot of wild slashes that would involve her jumping and moving all around the map because of her Volstandig. So her Volstandig would just randomly come out with her wings, allowing her to just slash at different elevated positions that normal characters would be able to get to. Also, this is the sneaky thing that I want to implement, is that on her sword, she would cause many explosions to enable her to have a sneaky phantom range that you can't predict. Now, nothing ridiculous, like I'm not saying it because she slashes at you, she's gonna hit you all the way across the map. I'm talking about mainly a mid-range type of thing, where if she's slashing you and you feel like, oh, I'm just outside the range of her combo, she's not gonna get me. Wrong. So basically what her slashes would be doing is that, yes, at close, just like right up on each other type of range, she would hit you with the sword. But if you're like just outside of range, let's say mid-range, let's say that you're about, I don't know, 6 feet to maybe 8 feet out of her range, she would be able to hit you with an explosion that would stagger you and allow her to get closer for her actual melee combos to be done. Now, the safe part about this is that this type of explosion would not be unblockable. You would be able to sit there and block, but this would also aid her too. Because if you block her technique, don't worry, you're not going to get guard broken immediately. What's going to happen is that you would get pushed out of her range. So if you thought you were going to counter combo her and just sit there and hold on the guard button all match, no, she's going to push you out of range in an effort to protect herself as well. Also, what I want to see these explosions do is take out the supports. So if you have a person that's relying on supports while you're trying to combo them, well, the extra added benefit would be that her explosions would instantly take out supports. Like if she slashes and the timing lines up correctly, she can get supports out of there. This would make her a unique character and give her a utility purpose for a team. So you would actually have a chance of seeing her on many teams just for that attribute alone. So I had a lot of fun thinking up of abilities that would comprise her moveset in Jump Force Season 2 DLC. So Bambieta's first technique, which would be really unique, would be an advanced strash type of slash cinematic technique. And it would do a basic amount of damage, but what you really came for is the second effect of the technique. Because of Explode, the E, the opponent will be turned into an explosive, so that if you trigger that technique again at any point during the match, the opponent would fall over and explode for an extra huge chunk of damage. And there would be a tertiary, a third effect. Now let's say this. Let's say that you wait till your opponent summons their supports and puts them on the map. You trigger this technique and their support gets caught up in the damage. So you would essentially be doing double damage if your opponent was dumb enough to summon their support. So in this way, if you have a smart player that gets hit with this technique, they can't use their supports at any point during the match until you use that technique again. Because if they did and you triggered this technique, you would do somewhere in the realm of 50 to 60% damage off the rip. Yes, yes, and more yes. This makes her lethal. This makes her a support deleter. This means that nobody can just sit there and rely on supports anymore during a match. And this would, kind of control the meta. I want Bambieta to be a meta shifting character. So, next technique, and this is what I was really waiting on here, is that she would have like a switch technique, sort of like Law's technique, where he can forcibly make you cycle between your teammates. Let's say that your opponent uses a support. You use this sword technique, you use a slash, and let's say it's a long range slash, and it hits the support. The support is now turned into an explosive. Again, this is all working against supports, making them null. Her melee, her moveset, everything would be a support deleter. This would make her a lethal weapon in anyone's hands, but especially smart players that would know how to play her. And just like the first ability that I came up with, if you use this technique and the support gets summoned there next to the main character or the anchor, it does double damage right off the rip. If they get caught up in that radius of explosion, it does double damage. Yes, yes, and more yes. Now, her ultimate technique, it would be tied to her awakening, just like a lot of characters in this game, and it's her Volstaggi form. And I must say that these Volstaggi forms look awesome. So in this technique, I can see her having a mixture of Gaara and Galena's startup, because that's pretty much how it is in a manga, where she rains down a bunch of reishi and it hits the opponent and basically will turn them into a explosive being or whatnot. So I can see her raining down these reishi orbs onto the map, and all these things triggering off at once, doing huge chunks of damage in one ult. It would make it the most unique ult ever seen, because instead of her doing, it would be a mixture of what Gaara does. So she would use a Giganta to appear directly above the opponent and then rain down the reishi orbs and hit everything in sight. And let's say I do want to somewhat be cinematic, because that's pretty much how all ultimates are. But me, really, the creative side wants it to be a non-cinematic ultimate that can take effect on all the supports. Again, I want just Bambieta to just be a deleter of worlds. Just sit up here sending out these orbs, these explosive orbs, just destroying everything in sight. So Awakening would be the same thing, and her move would just get swapped out for her ult. So she would get a purely non-cinematic version of her ult along with the other techniques that she would still have in her von Stangik form. And that's been Bambieta from the 1,000 Years Blood War arc in Jump Force Season 2 DLC. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, and you will see that reflected in a future video. I know you like today's Jump Force Season 2 DLC characters leak list. Press that subscribe button with utter perfection and watch some of the videos linked down below and the playlist that pops up on your screen right now. Click the notification bell to get all the top anime fighting games and anime games information here on the place where the quality is in the name itself, perfection. And I will see you in the next video. Peace.